All right, let's talk about the ups and downs of Tales of Iron 2. I was a big fan of the first game. It doesn't feel like much of a Souls-like. It's like got little bits of Souls-like, little bits of Metroidvania, but it's not really a Souls-like because of a lot of different things. And it's not really a Metroidvania because it's mostly pretty linear, and there's not like a lot of unlockable traversal stuff like double jumps and stuff. It's kind of its own thing, and I appreciated it for that. What I really love more than anything else is the slow, deliberate, precise combat. The combat's really good at it's usually very clean. There are some bosses that have these big AoE things. That's a little bit of a different story, but for the most part, it's very, very good combat. It's got just the right amount of variety with your ranged options and stuff, and so I was hoping for more of the same from this, and on paper, that's kind of what I got. It's mostly more of the same, more great boss fights, more good combat, more really light Souls-like, light Metroidvania stuff. But there are a couple of things about it that are different, and I like some of them, and some of them I don't. They added some convenient stuff, like better fast travel, a better UI, a better traversal. They gave you a grappling hook, because the platforming in the original game was really clumsy and boring. And so all that stuff was good. I like that they added those things. They also make some interesting additions with spells that you didn't really have in the first game, and some more crafting options, and some more side quest stuff. Like that was all good. Some of the stuff, however, I didn't. It's not that what they added was bad. It's the way that they handled it, because it just wasn't done very well. This game has a lot of really weird quirks that are frustrating. Like, the checkpoint system is probably the most frustrating. It doesn't... There's no autosave. So, that's one thing, right? But if you beat a boss, and then you fall off of a cliff on the next page, or you fall 10 feet and it hurts you because you were almost dead, and then it resurrects you and you have to fight the boss again. Come on, most games have figured out how to get around that. There should at least be autosaves when you beat a boss. I mean, come on. That happened multiple times. The way that the checkpoint system is divided up is odd. In some places there are too many, it seems like they're in every room, and then in some places you're like, when am I going to get a freaking checkpoint? There were a lot of more weird quirks with the checkpoint system, like if you got an item out of a barrel that was really nice, you could just sit down and save and then die and then load again, because there are places in front of bosses you're going to die over and over again. So you can just farm barrels for as many items as you want when it comes to like craftable materials, and that's kind of important in this game. So it's just the way the checkpoint system in this game is. It's archaic in a way that it doesn't need to be. I really didn't like the checkpoint system. Some of the combat is funky too. Like it auto locks on. Like there's no lock on system. You're gonna hit whatever is in front of you. But when you have multiple enemies in front of you, it's a little finicky. Sometimes you'll want to hit one and it'll go through that one and hit the other one. That's clearly not supposed to do that. There were a lot of little weird things that I couldn't tell whether they were bugs or not, but they seemed like bugs. Like whenever you another thing about we'll talk about the bug first. Most of the time, when you died and came back to a checkpoint system, you did not have full health. Now, this game does this thing where if you rest and you only have half health, then when you come back, you're only going to have half health, which I think is dumb. Just give me full health, because otherwise, then every time I sit at a checkpoint, before I do, I got to make sure I heal up and go to 3 different screens, and it takes way too long to heal up, and then I rest. But and so that's dumb. It's dumb. You just give me full health when I wake up. That way I don't have to go and search for healing every time I'm going to fight something again or something. It was just weird. It happens. That kind of thing is just odd. But beyond that, even if you did have full health, when you would resurrect, you just wouldn't have full health. You'd have like 90% health. So it would be close, but you wouldn't quite have... So I had to get into the habit of, when I was fighting bosses, and some of these bosses killed me like 40, 50 times, every time I died, heal up, go and get healing so that I have 100% full health when I go into the boss, because it's kind of important, because I'm winning some of these fights by the skin of my teeth. And so that had to have been a bug, right? If there wasn't, I don't know why it would be like that, because when I saved, I would have full health. Doesn't matter how many times I save with full health. I'm still not going to have, I'm going to have like 90% when I resurrect. It doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? So there were a lot of weird quirks, and I call them quirks because I think some of them were bugs, and I'm forgetting a lot of them, but it's a lot of little stuff like that. A lot of little things. And again, most of the issue that I had beyond that was the checkpoint system. The checkpoint system was just, it was just really tiresome. You know, if it worked like a Souls-like, that would be better, you know, but it doesn't work like a Souls-like. If you get, as a Souls-like, you get full health when you resurrect, you know, so or you get your certain items back or whatever. I don't know. It's just, there were a lot of little quirks like that, and it did put a damper on the game. It made the game unnecessarily frustrating and sometimes when it really didn't need to be. But largely, I liked it. The big question is, did I like it more than the first one? I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. The number one problem that is going to keep me from saying that I rank this above the first game, the inconsistency with the difficulty of the bosses. We haven't talked about this yet. The first couple of bosses were pretty tough, and I didn't know if it was because I was just garbage or I was going to sign up. I was signed up for a really tough game, like it was going to be way harder than the first one or something. Well, the first couple of bosses, you don't have any of your ranged options or your heavy weapons or your anything. So you're just using your light attack and like your parry and your block and your dodge. So it was super hard because of that. As soon as I got all those options, which was like right after the first couple of bosses, then suddenly the bosses were super easy for a while, a little too easy. And then, like, there'd be like 3 or 4 pretty easy bosses, mostly too easy. And then I'd get one boss that just kills me 80 times. And I just can't, suddenly, there's just this one boss that I just can't get by. And then there'd be 2 or 3 other bosses that were, again, like suspiciously easy. Like I thought there would be a second phase or something, and then it didn't happen. And then there'd be another boss that was like, I would just die 50 times too. So it was a lot of really the best tough games, I think there's a nice incremental, gradual increase in difficulty with the bosses. A really great example of that is Ender Lily's Quietus of the Nights. I just played that a couple of games ago. Every boss is harder than the last. You can see why. You understand why you're struggling, but you're still struggling. That's the best kind of boss fight. And this had some of that. The 3 or 4 bosses in this game that were really, really hard, I really enjoyed. They when you died, you knew why you died. They taught you how to be better. They're the best kinds of boss fights. But most of the other ones were just cannon fodder. It was like they didn't try that hard to design it, or they just wanted it to be easy, which didn't make any sense to me. So I think because of that, the incremental difficulty with the bosses in the first game, I think that was better. And I think ultimately that's the number one thing that I enjoy about these games. And so that's what's going to be the deciding factor when I rank this under the first one. I think I liked the first one more. So I liked the quality of life improvements with the UI and the fast travel and all that stuff, but I don't think it outweighs the quality of the boss fights. I think it's funny because I think as far as like really, really tough boss fights, they had about the same number, but they were in a different order. In the Tales of Iron 1, all the hardest boss fights were at the end, you know, or in the second half. In this game, it was like the 3rd boss, the 5th boss, and the 9th boss were like the only hard ones. So I don't know. That's a weird choice. It's either not deliberate, in which case it's not ideal game design, or it is deliberate and it's a really weird choice. I feel like the former is probably true, but I did still really like the game. It's going to rank really well. I loved the first one. I think I love this one too. I just don't think I love it as much. All right. Last order of business, Tales of Iron. It's been a joy, but we are now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. Bye. Appreciate ya.